How's it going, everyone? It has been Lone Vault Wanderer, here with another Fallout 4 pros versus cons video. The series where we look at the major changes that BGS made to the Fallout franchise from Fallout 3 and New Vegas to Fallout 4, and see whether we can discuss in a rational, calm way the pros and cons with each of those changes. And today, of course, we are talking about the removal of the karma system in Fallout 4. Now, when we talked about all the changes to voice dialogue and having a voice protagonist in the last video, I think the answers were very much more one-sided in that. People were very much against the idea of having a voice protagonist, for the most part anyways. There was some in between, some people didn't mind at all. But when we talk about the removal of karma in Fallout, it's very much a polarizing issue. When I tweeted out this on Twitter, I got a bunch of responses, and I love seeing people engage in that discussion. But some people were for it, some people were against it, some people hated how the karma system existed in Fallout 3 and to a lesser extent Fallout New Vegas, but that didn't mean they necessarily wanted to see it do away with entirely. So it was a great kind of diversity of answers in that regard. So what I want to do is pose the question to all of you in my YouTube community that don't follow me on Twitter. Can you think of different pros and cons for removing the karma system in Fallout 4? I know last time people just said, voice protagonist is shit. There are no pros at all. But I encourage you, try and challenge yourself. This time, can you think of different pros and different cons for the removal of karma? I would really be interested to see what your responses are there. And to get the conversation started, I want to be presenting two of my own pros and also two of my own cons for removing karma in Fallout 4. So let's start with the pro, alright? And this really stems from my extensive time with Fallout 3. Karma did not make sense where you did a negative act, like steal something or kill someone, and when no one else saw you commit that act, it affected your karma in a negative way. Equally, when you do something positive that no one else around you sees or notices, how that improved your karma standing. Although I can't think of too many instances that happened in Fallout 3. It was more the negative stuff happened when you stole something or hacked into a terminal, got into a safe, etc. But really, it was this general idea that when you did something bad or negative, that somehow affected your karma, even though no one else saw you commit that act. Even though when I'm in hiding, for instance, in Fallout 3, and I steal something, I still get that little indicator, that little status that says, your karma has gone down. And then somehow that act overall helps affect my karma. It helps affect how people perceive me in the wasteland, even though no one saw me commit that evil or negative act. How do people like my father and like other people in the wasteland, and also companions that you can get in the game based on the karma level that you have? So for example, if you wanted to get Jericho as a companion in Fallout 3, you had to have a negative karma, I believe. But how is that possible? How does Jericho know that I'm a bad person when he never saw or even heard me commit all of those negative acts? If I'm hiding and if I'm crouched and I steal something or kill someone and no one else sees it, that realistically should not affect my karma. Very much so. If someone sees me kill someone else, then realistically they'll spread the word, people will find out about the negative act that I did, etc, etc. It makes a bit more sense in that regard. But when absolutely no one sees me do something bad or something good, for both sides of the argument there, that should not really affect my karma in any tangible way. And more so, it should not affect how people and companions view me in the wasteland. It just does not make sense in that regard. And from that perspective, it is a very weird dissonance. So by Fallout 4 kind of doing away with the karma system entirely, I guess that was a pro. Although that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do away with karma entirely. It just means that karma should only be affected when you do an action and people see you do that action. But nevertheless, doing away with karma entirely just skips that inconsistency altogether. So that's the very first pro that I'll mention in this video. Alrighty, now the first con for removing karma from Fallout 4 is that when you do something that is very much evil, that is very much negative, again, you kill someone, you steal something, hack into a terminal, break into a locker, etc. In Fallout 4, there was no instant notification or indication from the game itself that you did something bad, that you did something negative. When you did something bad or evil in Fallout 3, and also as well, when you did something good or positive in Fallout 3, you got an instant notification that happened. When you donate a fresh bottle of water to someone begging for it in Fallout 3, outside a Megaton or Rivet City, etc. Instantly, you got a little pop-up that said your karma has increased. And equally, when you kill someone or do something bad, the game will tell you your karma has decreased. It's a great way for you to kind of keep a track on what you're doing in the Wasteland or what you're trying to get your character to do, and inform you instantly whether the game and whether the characters in the game and the community and the Wasteland, etc., would view that act that you just committed as evil or as good. But when Fallout 4 did away with karma, BGS did away entirely with that kind of idea of letting you know the kind of moral status of the action that you just performed in the game. When that's not there, it's kind of hard for you to understand whether you're performing a good act or whether you're performing a bad act. And even though sometimes you might disagree personally, or well, they were someone evil, so why does it matter that I stole from them? It's more the game telling you what the game itself and the characters in the game and the factions in the game, etc., what they would all typically think of what you just did. And also as well, related to that, when you go into your Pip-Boy in Fallout 3, you can instantly see your karma level. You can see whether you're a good Wastelander, a neutral Wastelander, or a bad Wastelander. I know there are different categorizations there, but let's just say it's, good, neutral, or evil. You could very easily, instantly, in Fallout 3, check if you're a good, neutral, or bad character. And that's important. That kind of understanding is important, especially if you're trying to play as a neutral character. Especially if you're trying to play as a good or an evil character. Otherwise, how do you really know? When you kill people and steal a bunch of shit in Fallout 4, yeah, you understand that you've done some bad stuff, but there's no progress bar, if you will, in the game that keeps a track of that. You kind of have to keep your own mental backlog of saying, alright, I did all these evil things, but I did that one good thing. Does that make me good, bad, evil? I don't know. The game's not telling me that, and it's kind of hard for me to keep a track when I'm just trying to enjoy the game and keep across all these other things that are happening. There is absolutely no feedback mechanism there. So that would be the first con of removing karma from Fallout 4. Alright, now let's move on to the second pro of removing karma in Fallout 4. And this argument relates to the idea of when you do something bad, evil, or neutral inside of Fallout 3 and inside of New Vegas, it's like the game itself is the judge, jury, and executioner in terms of determining whether the action that you just performed in the game was good, bad, or evil. So long as that little red text pops up whenever you're trying to steal something or hack into a terminal, etc. That's kind of the be-all or end-all to determine whether the action that you're about to perform is going to be considered good or bad. However, if we're looking at it realistically, sometimes actions are indeed morally grey. Sometimes when you steal from someone, should that be considered a bad thing? Should that be considered evil so as to decrease your karma? So for instance, if I steal from Grandma Sparkle, who's generally a good character in Fallout 3, yeah, I can see how that would be considered as a negative thing that would decrease my karma. But if I steal from some random person in the Wasteland that maybe has a shady past, maybe isn't a good person, why does it matter? Why would that affect my karma if I stole from that person? If the person is bad, like the person that I'm killing, for instance, why would performing that action, such as killing them or stealing from them in the game, why should that action of stealing from them or killing them in the game be considered evil? I mean, if we take Jericho, for example, in Megaton, Jericho did some fucked up shit in his past when he was living outside of Megaton. So realistically, if I kill Jericho, should that be seen as a bad thing, or should it be seen as this kind of retribution against all of the evil deeds that Jericho did in his past? But that doesn't matter. Those determinations don't even come into it because the game is instantly like, you just did a bad thing, deal with it. But in your mind, you could be like, well, hold on, he deserved to die. This person deserved to get stolen from. I was stealing this bottle of water to give it to someone else that was needing it, for instance. And admittedly, while there aren't too many circumstances of this happening in Fallout 3, for example, it's not like when you kill a raider, your karma gets affected. It's only when you kill someone that's like a regular citizen or something like that. So there's not too many examples in that regard. But just generally, this idea of the game determining instantly whether what you just did was good, bad, or neutral might not make sense all the time, especially given the setting and the story of this game, where everyone's trying to fend for their survival. So can you blame someone for stealing some food? Can you blame someone for stealing this gun or stealing this ammo or whatever it is to try and defend themselves in the Wasteland? Should that really be considered as a purely negative thing, or should it be more neutral in that regard? Should there be an option for morally grey actions, if you will? And again, this is one of those things where, well, you didn't have to do away with karma entirely to circumvent those issues. You can just kind of refine the karma system to better accommodate for those considerations. But nevertheless, when you do remove karma in Fallout 4, you don't get those difficulties. When you kill someone in Fallout 4, when you steal something, etc., you can decide for yourself whether that was a good action, whether it was justified, or whether it was bad and it wasn't justified. I guess that's kind of a positive of not having karma in the first place in Fallout 4, at least with how it operated in Fallout 3 in New Vegas. Alrighty, now the second and final con for removing karma in Fallout 4. And this this relates to the entire idea of you trying to be a completely bad or evil guy in that game, because I hear this from so many people all the time when talking about Fallout 4, in that you can't really play as a bad or an evil guy in that game. The game kind of pushes you towards the positive path. The game didn't really let you just be a bad person and consequently affect how people saw you in the Wasteland in a meaningful way, affect the narrative and the story in the game in a meaningful way. Because in Fallout 4, yes, you can steal from everyone and you can kill a bunch of people, but does that really affect your character? Does that really affect how people perceive you? Yeah, you can kill a bunch of the Brotherhood, but you can go and slaughter Diamond City and the Brotherhood will just be like, yeah, what's up, man? You're all good. You're cool in our eyes. I mean, that doesn't really make sense, does it? So when you remove karma entirely from Fallout 4, it's even harder to be a bad guy. But this is kind of relating to what I mentioned before, in that having a karma system allows you to know instantly whether the game considers you good, neutral, or bad. But it goes a little bit deeper than that, right? I mean, for instance, in Fallout 3, when you can't get certain companions because you have a certain karma level, that's the game telling you, you can't do this thing because you've been such an asshole and killed all those people in this game. We're gonna block off certain things to you in the game. But yet, when Fallout 4 just does away with that system entirely, there is no loop or way that the game can really punish you for doing certain bad things in the game, because there's no karma system to keep a track of all of the bad, good, or neutral things that you've done in the game and overall determine whether you're a good, bad, or neutral person. When that system is entirely removed, there is no way really that the game can kind of tangibly treat you in a different way. But when you do have karma, and the way people talk towards you, the way they act towards you, the companions you can receive, the end story cards that you got in the game, all of that is directly impacted by the actions that you do in the game. And relatedly, the karma that you have in the game. And like someone mentioned on Twitter, his handle was a man named Joel. He said that karma was a key part of the game, and really having no outcomes for stealing or murdering people is not as fun. And I would kind of agree with that, to be honest. When there is no real consequence, narrative-wise, story-wise, gameplay-wise, etc., for doing a bad thing, and equally as well for doing a good thing, then the game kind of feels less alive, like the game is not really reacting to what you're doing. And again, did they do this perfectly in Fallout 3 and New Vegas? Arguably not. It's one of those things that probably needed to be refined, but nevertheless, doing away with the karma system entirely doesn't let you improve upon it in any way. It just removes the system and doesn't really give it a chance to shine. So anyways, Wastelanders, that's all from me. Please let me know what you think about my pros and cons in the comments below, and let me know all of the pros and cons that you can think of with regards to Fallout 4 removing karma. And until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourself, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.